Welcome to the Necronama.com, where we're spending all of October looking at 31 episodes of the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror. Today, we're looking at Treehouse 28 from October 22nd, 2017. I am James Tabata.
I'm Don Guillory.
And I'm Thomas Brungardt.
And we're here today to talk about priests in a 12-year-old's bedroom. Oh, wait, no, it's a way younger person's bedroom. Never mind. What's the opening on this one? Is the dumb one in the can?
No, I like this one.
Called the Sweets Hereafter. It reminded me of Sausage Party.
They have names?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
This one's
right.
Easter special.
Yeah. it felt long. These have been feeling longer and longer, like the intro.
Yeah, this one was a little bit longer. I mean, especially when we had the one that was tremendously short, and then you had longer sketches. But I thought this one was kind of cool. One from the tech and animation standpoint, but then also the way they're able to, I guess, convert or adapt Sausage Party, which has one of the most gratuitous sex scenes involving food since 9.5 weeks.
I prefer to think of it as Sergeant Sausage Party.
I was waiting for anyway.
I don't think they're going to call back to that character.
Damn it!
They should have for this episode with the third act, though. That would have been great. That would have been outstanding. I was waiting.
You ate me. Now I'll eat you.
What the fuck was that third act? Oh my god.
All right. Speaking of acts, James, you're up.
The EXOR-SIS. With sis, because she's a sister. Oh man, they are so good at these titles. So it's a direct ripoff for a while of The Exorcist, where we literally go to a temple in northern Iraq and find a Pazuzu statue, and then they sell it online. Homer buys it because he thinks it's a pizza. Why the fuck he thinks that you buy a pizza this way, and why he would wait the several weeks for it to arrive, I don't know. Then Homer sings a lullaby to Maggie and gives her this little Pazuzu toy, and her eyes turn red and she becomes possessed and all hell breaks loose. And then, I don't know, there's a demon this whole fucking thing just goes crazy shitty. Let's just put it that way. Is there even a point to talking about this? It's The Exorcist with Maggie. And she does not masturbate with a crucifix. That's the really important part here. That would really ruin this episode for me.
I thought that's what the leprechaun was for.
So then at the end, the demon gets out of Maggie and goes into Bart, and then whines and cries because Bart has the most evil soul that it's ever dealt with. So I don't know how I feel about this one. On the one hand, I really like this one. It was fun, but I feel like it's too close to the source material. And I've bitched about that before, where I feel like, what are you even doing if you're just doing the exact same thing? And I feel like it would have actually been better if they'd ordered a pizza and somehow got an evil Pazizi or some shit, you know?
Pizzone. I was waiting for a Pizzone joke.
Oh, that would have been good, yeah. Anything would be better than what they did, because it just doesn't add up for me, and it's fucking weird. And then he gets this little thing and thinks that he should give it to Maggie. Nothing about this makes any sense to me. And but then it's fun because Maggie's, possessed and gone crazy.
Well, the thing that bothers me about it is that every time, and it happens so often that Maggie is possessed, they always make the same, it's the terrible twos joke.
Right?
I've heard that before on this show, too many times to count. So it was kind of forgettable.
Well, you even had that on the dinosaurs when that was a TV show. Well, it was a TV show where the baby
before the meteor hit.
Yeah, right. Where the baby was 2 and he was, being extremely evil. So the doctor lied to him and said, "Oh, you're not 2 anymore. You're 3. No more terrible 2s." It's just kind of become one of those things to explain from whenever, your kid is either possessed or just inherently evil, that becomes the write-off. But I did like how when Maggie comes downstairs, there's kind of the jokes that you would expect. It's like, oh, Maggie said her first words. Oh, she's walking down the stairs, and then Reverend Lovejoy's wife Helen makes the comment about, which I fucking hate that character to begin with, but I guess I like her because she's so authentic to that kind of person. But she complains about the soda and states that, oh, you got generic cola? And then, of course, Maggie then runs a fire poker through her. And which is awesome. Is
Good
like,
for
no,
Maggie.
Yeah. Marge doesn't react like, oh my gosh. It's kind of like, oh, finally. Like, great.
Well, I mean, even backing up, like Maggie comes out and she's standing at the top of the stairs, and Marge is just like, Maggie, you're not supposed to be out of your crib. I love that. I'm like, you're little tiny baby who shouldn't be able to get out of a crib at all. That doesn't concern you. The fact that she's standing at the top of the stairs doesn't concern you. Like, there's so much going on here that's way funnier to me than it's intended to be. And I don't know. And I think that actually detracted from the stuff I was supposed to find funny. But why do I care if the stakes are so low? Like, if this demon can't even compete with Bart, then what the fuck's it there for? Like, what am I scared of? Because we all know Bart lives there just fine. So little possessed McGaggy will be great. Where's the problem?
You stole my McGaggy joke.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
It's McGaggy's birthday?
Oh, you know what? I think there's a later Treehouse of Horror, and they're celebrating McGaggy's birthday. I was disappointed by this one too, because I love exorcism humor, and it just kind of fell flat for me. Like they spent so much time on all of like the B jokes, the main story just wasn't there.
Yeah, you've got the at least the idea that they know something's wrong. I mean, they eventually catch on that something's wrong, and they're thinking about trying to get some help, but then all of a sudden, who was it? Liam Neeson is the priest and shows up.
Was that Liam Neeson?
I think, or at least it was somebody who sounded like him.
I have no idea. Maybe. That seems like something they would do.
I was pretty checked out at that point. Honestly.
Well, he shows up, and I know, James, this is probably one of your favorite lines, but he makes that comment about, I'll fix this, I'll take care of this, and, says something along the lines of, oh, if you can't trust a Catholic priest with a child, then, who can you trust?
Yeah.
And I know you're talking about the whole idea of the source material and going back to the original Exorcist, but there was no real concern, at least in the 1970s when the original movie was made.
Nope.
Or at least there weren't the jokes like that.
Yeah, it wasn't a constant thing. Well, not even the jokes. It just wasn't as out in the open either that the Catholic Church was so utterly complicit in what's happened, I don't know. So, plus, it was a little girl, so they probably weren't concerned. I just Googled Liam Neeson in The Simpsons, and it's not him, but oddly, he played a priest in another episode.
Okay, I thought it was the same one because I remember him coming on as a priest.
So that's weird.
Is it when they go to Ireland, or is it something else?
I don't know. It just says Bart was wrongfully expelled from school and sent to parochial school where he befriends a hip priest named Father Sean.
That's where I got it mixed up because I remember that episode. Because he ends up, Bart wants to become Catholic at that point, and they kind of make this. Well, he goes to the school and it's kind of like when he goes to the hell school or whatever it is. It's kind of the same reception. He starts doing so well there.
They have a lot in common.
Yeah. Because he has Father Sean or Brother Sean or whatever it is, who's mentoring him, telling him all this cool stuff about Jesus and the Bible and stories and stuff like that. And I think he even makes a joke about being around kids, kind of the same joke that you see in this episode.
Can you imagine if he was the priest in this one, though, and the first thing he did was close the door, stare down the demon, and say, I have a particular set of skills.
That would have been good. I would have enjoyed that. I enjoy a good Taken reference.
Yeah, and Maggie's been taken, right? See, I mean, it would have fit. They really missed an opportunity to make this episode interesting here.
At least to us.
We don't know what's going on in the future with any of these Treehouse of Horrors. So maybe there will be one. Maybe Father Sean comes back.
I know what's going on. I've seen the first 38.
Can I tell an exorcism story?
You guys about the host one. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, it's not related to the episode, but every time I think about The Exorcist, I think about this story of my own negligence. James, for those who don't know the origin story, James and I used to work at a school together, and I think this happened after you had already left. But the school had a series of seizure incidents, so they thought it'd be good to bring in an expert and teach everybody seizure protocol. And of course, I was not paying attention at all. And then in the middle of this in service, they call on me and they're like, Thomas, what's the best way to approach the situation if such and such is having a seizure? And I said, well, the first thing you got to do is either have a rebirthing ceremony or an exorcism, because we got to get that demon out. And
oh my God.
Half the school who knew me thought it was hilarious. The other half of the people who were new thought I was a terrible person. And I ended up getting pulled aside by the executive director just to make sure that she knew I wasn't an idiot. And I was like, no, I know what to do. I was just, classic Thomas making light of a serious situation. But I enjoy things about The Exorcist because it makes me think of my own stupidity.
Amazing. Oh, dear Lord.
Should we get in and out of Act 2? Because it's going to be quick.
Well,
this sounds like my dating life.
Before we jump up to that one, I do like, yeah, that's what she said.
You let him talk?
Yeah. The end of this sketch where there's kind of that warning, where healed or the demon is no longer in her. And Marge makes that comment about she's not going to become a religious weirdo now, is she? Which is just a great line that you can kind of chuckle at, and people like me are completely cynical about a lot of things like that. Just look at it and think to myself, that's exactly what you would expect from somebody. They go through this horrific situation, this traumatizing experience, and then all of a sudden they have to tell you everything about their friend. Whatever religious path that they happen to take. To each their own.
But that actually makes sense. If you went through this, then you would know demons are real, which would infer that the other side is real. So you would work harder to get into the right side of the afterlife. Whereas somebody like me would just eat cupcakes and be like, oh, okay.
But the whole thing is about, it's one thing to be religious, I'm actually going to go to church now. I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to actually practice those,
being religious
things.
Is not about what I'm going to do. It's about what you're not allowed to do around me.
Well, I know. That's what I'm saying. It should be about what you're supposed to do. I don't know, atone for whatever your sin, whatever the basic principles of whatever religion you follow are, right? As opposed to the ones who become those religious weirdos, and it's all about you have to do exactly what my God says. Or whatever my little book says you have to do. I'm like, no, fuck you. I have a lot of books. I don't care about the one that you decide to live your life by.
Actually, I think that's one thing they do really well with Ned. Because while he lives that way, they keep Ned likable. And like you were talking about Helen Lovejoy. And she doesn't have that, right?
Oh.
And if Ned didn't have the other things that make him likable, he would be an absolutely insufferable character. And I've never, until literally this conversation right now, I've never thought about how hard they worked to balance Ned and keep him a good guy that you want around. Huh.
Yeah, you're right. I've never thought about it either, but I've never been annoyed by him, even though he's a religious kind of guy.
Right? Yeah.
I see him as being a real caricature, an exaggerated caricature, whereas somebody like Helen Lovejoy, that fucking person. you know that's like your aunt or somebody you work with, somebody you went to school with. That's, you know, that person well enough to where you like, as soon as you see them coming, you're like, God damn it. It's like, please don't sit next to me. Whereas Flanders, he might bother you, might annoy you, but, you know, he's actually a nice guy. As opposed to this person where she's just fucking insufferable.
Even as the supposedly annoying neighbor, he's the good neighbor. Always. Like, he's the one that's always giving Homer stuff or helping him. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Maybe it's that he actually lives the Christian ideal, whereas a Helen Lovejoy type doesn't. And that's why you couldn't put her in every episode and give her FaceTime.
Yeah.
Huh. Anyway, what's the second episode you want to ignore?
Oh, well, I think to be fair, none of us have seen Coraline, but this second one is called CORALISA, and I think it's a Coraline thing. I don't know. I don't know the story of Coraline, so I couldn't tell you, but
I consider myself the expert of this group. I once read 2 pages of the book. So I'll be our expert. All right, go ahead.
There's a cat that can talk, and then there's like this bizarro other family. I will say, as much as I disliked this bit and I didn't care for it, the animation was effective. It was creepy. So I thought in that way they succeeded with doing that strange knit sock monkey looking. I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it. They have buttons for eyes. It was creepy. But overall, I kind of tuned out again because I don't care about Coraline, and it was just weird. And it's a Lisa story. Who cares?
I tried to watch Coraline years ago. Couldn't get into it. Tried it again. Still couldn't get into it. And I don't see myself like sitting down and saying, like, I'm going to sit here and watch Coraline. Nothing against it for anybody who likes it. You know, we all have different stuff that gets us interested, and that didn't work for me. But no, this one worked for me in the sense of questioning what your ideal family would look like. You know, because when she does cross over into that world, she's told like, oh, you know, this is your other family, your other reality that you can go into, and she gets to play jazz with them, and you know they're all good, but not better than she is, and you have all these
good line.
Yeah, you have all these things going on that make it seem like, oh, it would be a great situation, but you got to have the button eyes. So even when I was watching this, I was thinking about what would I give up if I were to have, you know, what would be perceived as a more ideal situation. And I mean, of course, The Simpsons is the whole thing about we're going to go over there. She doesn't like it, goes home. And then realizes, like, no, I'll take my chances with this other family. But I don't know what it would take for me, or at least what my ideal situation would be like, because you'd almost have to be presented with it without knowing that's what's at stake.
I don't think there's anything that would get me to do it. I'm going to stick with the devil I know. So I've read enough horror stuff that I'd be like, no, there's a payoff somewhere that's way worse. I'm not doing it. So I brought my wife in because I knew she had seen Coraline. And turns out she doesn't like Coraline, so that didn't really go according to plan. But she did tell me that it was pretty faithful to the way she remembered it. The eyes still creeped her out just like they did in the movie. I really liked the eyes. I thought it was a cool feature, and just the animation style, like they really matched it to the bits I've seen from the trailer. So kudos to them. They did a good job that way. My main thing with it is that this once again did exactly what happens with Lisa stories, and it's the reason I don't like Lisa stories, because they never finish a Lisa story. It always becomes a fucking Homer story. And it goes back to, Don, you've talked about Family Matters and how everything became the fucking Steve Urkel show. And That's how I feel about this. I feel like they had a decent story going. They have this legit motivation of Lisa wanting a different life. And rather than follow through on the decision it would take to make that, or like that whole process or just like the cost of doing so. They could have told a cool tale with that, and instead it becomes Lisa immediately, almost immediately accepts the deal. Then we go to Homer being too fat for the tunnel, and then it's all downhill from there because it's 100% about him.
And speaking of making it about him, I guess I could take us into the next act. Homer is the third act of this episode, and basically the synopsis is the family goes away for the weekend, and they leave Homer at home by himself to relax. They're going to hang out with Patty and Selma, which anybody watching knows that Homer is not going to go and spend any time with Patty and Selma. Gets comfortable, does all this, the silly shit that most of us think about doing when we, our family happens to be gone. Like, me personally, I'm not wearing pants. My family's gone. Pants are off. And I'm Winnie the Poohing it around the house. So, he's watching TV, he's hanging out, he's just lounging around in his underwear. And, he goes through all the food, or at least all the food that he's willing to have, because the refrigerator has both the crispers are full of vegetables and fruit, but that's not food to him. He finds a frozen hot dog in the freezer, and I was hoping this was going to be Sergeant Sausage. I thought he was going to make a return. Homer goes out back, grills it, but then decides I need to cut this open. Ends up cutting off his finger. Finger falls on the grill, and he eats it, which creates this insatiable desire for his own meat because he tastes better than pork, or tastes better than a pig. But anyway, it turns into him never being satisfied with getting enough of his own meat, to the point where Mario Batali shows up and has this great idea for a restaurant, which involves Homer's flesh. So the people of Springfield all turn to cannibalism because they're eating the body of Homer, I think Comic Guy, and a couple other people, and a horse is where all the meat is coming from. So, what did you two think about this one?
I call bullshit.
On what?
I saw him eat his arm in the past, and he didn't do this. I saw him eat his leg in that same episode, didn't do it. Also, my other observation here is I'm glad that they decided to eat Comic Book Guy, because I've seen that guy have a wheelbarrow with like 100 tacos in it, so he would have eaten a lot of people by himself. All right, so what did you think?
Oh, this one was fucking wild. The whole time I was just like, what the fuck is going on? It was insane to me. It reminded me of that 124 spoof they did, where Homer cuts off his thumb and the whole episode is trying to get it reattached.
Right.
It was the same kind of thing, but it just kept over and over, with no mention of Linguo, the grammar robot. But I was just so... I don't know if grossed out's the right term, but it was just so bonkers and like so out of left field to just watch Homer eat himself. I don't know. I liked it. I didn't dislike it. I liked the beginning when he's at home alone and he's singing like that parody of On the Road Again. I thought that was funny. And I thought it was funny when he was like sauteing his leg and Marge was like, this is like the lowest of lows for our marriage.
But what about no?
I
love that he thinks
of stuff.
I love that he thinks he's done something worse. I would like to know what it was.
She knows about his poker cabin in the woods, so it's not that. I don't know, Don. Did you like this one?
I did, because again, it's one of those things that makes you come up with a list of questions, which is, Homer even had his own meat chart, which I thought was funny. But one, what would human flesh taste like? And then two, would you do it? As far as sampling, what the legal process would be involved. I mean, if people volunteered themselves as a way to save humanity, as opposed to eating, farm raised or mass produced beef and pork, stuff like that? Should we turn to cannibalism to, just like Jonathan Swift argued in one of his satirical essays, to eat the children?
I would like to see it, just solely to see the packages that are marked like mask free, to show us the organic COVID people that refuse to wear a mask the whole time, and they're still safe and ground up
kosher?
for my amusement.
Kosher and halal.
Yeah,
Oh, let's think.
Yeah, I was gonna say, with government regulations, what would be the classification of things like that?
Oh, that's easy. I mean, we've all seen Americans. None of this is getting approved.
It'll just end up being hot dogs.
That's all Americans really are.
Old shoes. But, I mean, I don't think we're far away from it. There's people who drink human breast milk and who eat like the placenta after birth, which I feel like isn't a big jump from human flesh.
Well, I mean, technically, wouldn't the placenta be human flesh?
I don't know. I ordered the polenta and was terribly confused when I got the placenta.
The real question is why you drank the goop that came with it.
I I don't know. I guess in like a survival situation, I would probably eat human flesh. But then, there's problems with that, right? You get the hunger or whatever the human equivalent of mad cow disease is.
When would you get it, though?
I don't know. There's only one way to find out.
Or if this did become a thing, I mean, not, of course, obviously not eating oneself, but if this did become a thing where you had to eat someone, would anything be able to compare? Because with Homer, he has that one finger, and then Ned invites him over for their barbecue or whatever for some reason there's a fucking turkey out there. But invites him over to eat, and Homer hates everything because it doesn't live up to the flavor of his finger.
Oh yeah, that's the hunger, right? That's what it's called when you have this insatiable taste for human flesh. Nothing can compare. I think that would definitely. Well, I don't know that would happen for sure. I think most of that is probably just your body having a negative reaction. Like you get like a tapeworm or something, and you think you just need to keep eating this thing. I think they did that on It's Always Sunny, actually. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. There's so many things that I've had things that have been great, and I'm like, oh, I've never had anything like this before, but I didn't necessarily need to have only that.
I do. I really appreciate the line. I eat more and exercise less than the most succulent pig. Like, what an odd thing to say.
Well, what part, Don? What part of the human body would you eat first?
I'd go with the thighs.
Huh.
A high meat to fat ratio.
I figured you more of a breast guy.
No, that's fatty tissue.
But it renders like pork belly.
Let's see.
Put some spicy mustard on there, you got yourself a meal.
Oh, God. Well, what would you pair with any of this stuff? Like
2 breasts?
No, Jesus Christ. No, I mean, like, if you are having a human being, right?
Roast? Like what would be the side dish?
Yeah. What would you pair up with it? I mean, as far as food and or drink, what would you pair up with it?
Definitely something with gravy. Maybe like a nice garlic mashed potato, like a braised calf. And then I'd just drink a Diet Coke. Gotta watch those calories. What about you? What would you have?
See, I'm questioning if what the condition of a lot of this meat would be. Because you remember when PETA was going around putting stickers on meat and put they put stickers of like cows' names on the meat packages as like a way of protest. It look kind of like the Coke bottles used to, or they probably still have people's names on them, but how the Coke bottles would have a name on it. They were going around putting stickers, or maybe it was a different animal rights group that was putting stickers on the steaks and ground beef and stuff like that, and it said, "Oh, you know, my name was Carol the cow."
God.
And I'm sitting here like, "Yeah, maybe we're gonna do this fucking Coke thing. We're gonna see if we can match them together." So you just find like the Coke that matches the name of the cow or something. I don't know. Let's see. I'd probably want to go with a nice cruciferous vegetable like broccoli or cauliflower, because I would want whatever that is out of my system as soon as possible, so I can't dwell on the fact that it's there in my body.
Oh, you got some roughage. I get it.
Yeah.
I get you.
You know, especially if it has the same properties as like snake's hair. You know, you happen to cook somebody, they get in your body, and they end up taking over.
You know what would have been really funny to me, at least in this episode, is if at the end when they're at Shea Homer and they go in and there's like a carvery station and there's Homer and then there's like Carl and Lenny's looking at the display and he's like, I'll have some of the dark meat. And then they just cut off some of Carl to give it to him. I think that would have been hilarious.
See, I was waiting for a joke like that, you know? But, no.
This concludes another episode of the Necronomicon.com with James Sabata, Don Guillory, and Thomas Sexbot Brungardt.